Imagine standing on a bustling British high street in the late 1970s, the familiar hum of traffic and chatter all around. You reach into your pocket and pull out a crisp, brown $5 note. Its value, almost magical. Step inside the corner grocer and watch as shelves brim with tinned beans, loaves of white bread, slabs of real butter, and shiny apples stacked in wooden crates. For just five, your bag overflows. Tea bags for the week, a pound of best sausages, a carton of fresh milk, blocks of cheese, bacon rashers, jam, and even a packet of biscuits for after tea. There's change left for a bottle of orange squash or a handful of penny sweets. In those days, $5 felt like a small treasure, enough to feed the family, plan Sunday's roast, and slip in a small treat. Today, it sounds like a fairy tale, but for millions, it was simply life. Ordinary, yet full of quiet richness. Those full shopping bags carried not just food, but the comforts and rhythms of home. Next, let's step back and see what Britain itself was like then. To truly understand the power of that $5 note, we have to look around at the Britain of the 1970s, a country caught between echoes of ration books and the buzz of newfound optimism. The war was over, but its shadow still lingered. Some mothers remembered queuing for butter or eking out powdered eggs, but their children were growing up in a world of color televisions, supermarkets, and the promise of anything is possible. The clatter of coins in a bus conductor's hand, the steady drone of a washing machine, the jingle of an ice cream van. These were the sounds of everyday life. In 1973, the average weekly wage hovered around $40, and $5 was no small sum. You might pay $10 a week for a modest terrace house, or hand over just a few pounds to the milkman and grocer for your weekly essentials. Most families watched every penny, making lists, weighing up treats versus staples. The big shop was a family ritual, not just a chore. It meant checking the paper for deals, remembering the taste of bread fresh from the local baker, and, occasionally, slipping an extra bar of chocolate into the basket for the kids. There was inflation too, sometimes causing worry at the tills, but most people made do, finding joy in simple things, sharing what they had, and looking forward to a future that felt brighter with each passing year. This was the world where a $5 shop became a weekly adventure. Now, let's step into the heart of it, the weekly shop itself. Picture a Saturday morning in 1977. The shopping list is carefully written, tucked into a coat pocket, and the weather, a bit gray, perhaps a drizzle, never puts anyone off. We're off down the high street, and the first stop is always the bakery. The smell of warm bread drifts out as you collect a crusty loaf for 19p. Maybe a sticky Chelsea bun, if it's a treat day. Next, the greengrocer. Potatoes, carrots, and onions, all weighed out on sturdy brass scales. The pile of veg for a family of four, barely tipping 60p. Tomatoes, when they're in season, are a bright splash of color, tuppence each. At the dairy, a pint of fresh milk for 11p, a slab of cheddar for 52p, and perhaps a tub of stork margarine, because it goes further. The local butcher is next. There's always a queue. Everyone chats, swapping recipes or talking about last night's telly. Pork sausages at 38p a pound, back bacon for Sunday, a small roasting joint if you can afford it. The butcher, in his white apron, calls you by name and slips in a bone for the dog. Then it's off to the corner shop or supermarket, still a novelty for some, where shelves gleam with tins, Heinz baked beans, 8p each, Frey Bentos pies, 35p, packets of bird's eye fish fingers, just over 50p. A big box of PG tips costs 34p, and will see you through dozens of cuppas. You might grab a packet of biscuits for 12p, or a chocolate bar, curly-whirly, fudge, or maybe a marathon before it became a Snickers. Cash changes hands. No cards, no contactless. Coins feel heavy in the pocket, and every penny is counted. Some families collect green shield stamps for bigger household treats down the line. Children tag along, learning the value of money, occasionally sneaking penny sweets into the basket and hoping Mum doesn't notice. At the end of it all, the week's shopping fits into two sturdy bags, the total barely scraping $4.50. There's even room for a little treat, a lemonade, a handful of gobstoppers, or a box of jelly for Sunday tea. Compare that to today's supermarket sweep. Bar-coded trolleys, endless aisles, checkout bleeps, and the weekly bills stretching 10, even 20 times higher. The old weekly shop was never just about cost. It was a ritual, a chance to chat, to choose, to make do, and to feel proud of every penny stretched. But the magic didn't stop with groceries. It came alive at mealtimes, especially on Sundays. Sunday afternoons in 1970s, Britain were scented with the unmistakable aroma of a roast in the oven. Beef or pork, often a humble cut, nestled beside potatoes and carrots. The lot basted lovingly to make the most of every ounce of flavor. For under $1.50, the family could gather around a table groaning with Yorkshire puddings, steaming vegetables, and rich, glossy gravy made from scratch. Even the simplest meal felt special, served on best plates, with a pot of tea always close by. It wasn't just roasts. School dinners brought fish fingers, mash, and peas for pennies, and the weekly trip to the chippy, 20p for chips, 15p for battered sausage, turned a Friday evening into a miniature celebration. What we'd now call treats were woven into the rhythm of everyday life, small luxuries that united families and made ordinary days memorable. Laughter echoed in tiny kitchens, the sound of cutlery, the gentle clink of glasses, the contented sigh after a meal well cooked. These were as precious as the food itself. Meals weren't just about feeding the body. They were moments that stitched families together, one penny-saving feast at a time. But it wasn't all hearty meals. Sometimes, the real magic was in life's littlest pleasures. Nothing quickens a child's heartbeat like the jangle of coins in a pocket, destined for the sweet shop on the corner. In the 1970s, a 10-pence piece felt like a ticket to a world of delight. Behind the glass jars lined up on the counter, rows of pear drops, sherbet lemons, and cola cubes awaited, each sweet costing only a halfpenny or so. You'd spend ages deciding, maybe a pink shrimp, a strip of fizzing rainbow drops, or a chocolate mouse to make it last. For many, pocket money was earned, helping Dad wash the car, running errands, or minding the baby for Mum. There was the weekly thrill of the ice cream van, its jaunty tune drifting through the street. A 5p cone or a rocket lolly turned an ordinary afternoon into something worth remembering. Saving up for something bigger, a box of milk tray for Mum's birthday, or a shiny new comic, taught the value of patience and anticipation. Every small treat felt precious, enjoyed slowly, savored with friends, never taken for granted. Those humble pleasures shaped our childhoods. Today, aisles overflow with choices, but somehow, nothing feels quite as sweet as those simple shared moments of the past. Of course, not everything stayed the same. Soon, the price tags and the pace of life began to change. It didn't happen overnight, but one day the world began to feel a little less familiar. Prices crept up, sometimes faster than pay packets. The old corner shops faded, replaced by sprawling supermarkets and gleaming aisles of packaged goods. New gadgets arrived, microwaves, freezers, calculators, and suddenly life moved at a brisker pace. What once felt abundant for $5 now barely covered the basics. People would shake their heads in disbelief at the cost of bread or the weekly milk bill, sharing stories that began, "Back in my day." Many remember the sting of realizing a favorite treat was suddenly out of reach, or the sadness when the local baker closed, taking with him the smell of fresh loaves that used to fill the street. Yet, for every loss, there were gains, more choice, more convenience, new tastes and experiences. The Sunday roast might have become a rarer affair, but microwaved suppers freed up precious time for family. Still, it's hard not to miss the slower rhythms, the careful planning, the satisfaction of making a pound go further. As the world sped up and prices climbed, some of the old rituals slipped away, but the memories remain, stubbornly sweet and shining. So, what does $5 mean to us now? Let's take a look. Today, $5 might stretch to a loaf of bread, a pint of milk, and perhaps a bar of chocolate. Barely a basket's worth. But maybe the true legacy isn't just about what we could buy, but how much we valued what we had. Could we ever recapture that sense of enough? As prices rise and life hurries on, the memory of the $5 shop reminds us what truly matters. Gratitude, togetherness, and simple joys.